Okay, this is Chris McElligott Park here. I'm using my bad mic because I couldn't be bothered to get out my good one. Sorry. Um, I thought it'd be interesting putting in the logos for the expansions in the hangar scene here, and I thought it'd be interesting to go through that live and just kind of comment on things as I went. So as you can see right now, it's in the working scene view here. It's really, really dark, but that's not what the actual scene looks like once it's been color graded and everything else is applied in the final view. So can't really go based on that. A couple of years ago, I had extruded out the AI War logo and the Arkin logo using Photoshop to get the details out and make it so that there's something that can show up nicely in the main scene. And I've used them on various versions of the main scene. Today, I've extruded out the 3 different expansion logos, and I'm using all the relative geometry is a little bit off in this scene. It's all at kind of odd angles, so I'm just placing them to start out with inside the hierarchy-wise the AI War logo. There's the main menu over there, the loading menu, and then I don't have the drivers for my 3D mouse hooked up in this instance of Unity right now, which is kind of annoying. So these look terrible at the moment, and that's fine. They're using some sort of default material, and they're using a PBR shader, but only kinda. And I intentionally went through Polygon Cruncher, MooTools, and did a big polygon reduction on these because they were using 10,000 polygons or something like that. The Spyrises logo right now is using only like 2,000 polygons, so not bad. But I got rid of the normals on there, which is what determines how light bounces off them, and I also got rid of the tangents, which usually in Unity you just recalculate your own tangents anyway when you come in. But as you notice, everything is looking very rounded right now and kind of weird, and that is because of the way in which I chose to import these as a test. That looks horrible. I mean, we'd never be looking at it from that close up anyway, but even from here, and this is with a terrible shader. Anyway, so what we're going to do is make this not so rounded, and that just has to do with how I was importing it. So with the the default smoothing angle is 60. I went with 122 because sometimes that can look nice to have it higher. But oops, I just did the 901, not the Zenith one. But as you can see, you probably saw it. I missed it. Now things are looking much more crisp. Obviously, things are clipping where they shouldn't. I think that actually pretty much any smoothing that's happening here is going to be negative. Fun fact, when you've got, I'll actually demonstrate here with the Zenith Onslaught logo. So let's turn up the smoothing. So normals are kind of a crazy thing. We'll turn this to 180. Now this is as rounded as it can possibly look. You can make a column, if you imagine like a fluted column that doesn't actually have any insets in it, then basically what happens when you have smooth normals on there is that you have something that's incredibly low polygon, like a few hundred polygons, and it will look like a perfectly smooth cylinder. And that's because of how it's treating the light that hits it. So basically the angles of the polygon don't actually matter when you've got normals that are saying Pretend like there's not a corner here. Pretend like it's smooth. It's interesting math. Or you can go back the other way. This did not change the number of polygons whatsoever. This didn't change the number of vertices, nothing. This is just the normal smoothing. So you can really get dramatically different results. Look how nice and smooth and crisp, and that looks like a logo, you know? Like that makes sense. You know, if I went with something like 80, obviously this is all clipping wrong into the wall right now. It doesn't really matter. 80, like there's not enough that makes any difference. If we do smoothing angle of 0, I'm guessing that also doesn't matter. Yep. Basically, there are no edges on these logos that are worth smoothing, because an edge, by definition, in a logo like this, there's the surface or the front of the logo, and then there's an exactly straight extrusion straight back. Now, do you want, basically, for this kind of weirdo rounded bevel like what we've got going on here, like it'll try and make it look like it's rounded around the side? It's trying to do that kind of cylinder effect that I was talking about. You don't really want that. So anything that is under about 90 degrees, I guess, because it's a sharp 90-degree turn, is not getting picked up. And so that's just the nature of it. It's interesting. Did the Spire Rises logo way earlier, I guess last year, I guess it was late last year or early this year. I don't remember when I did it. But it's meant to be shown in this very crystalline view. And 3D would actually be optimal for doing that. I could use some refraction, do some interesting things. It's not going to fit with the rest of the scene here, not going to look right with the right lighting. So it winds up being just a very blocky font, and it's not my favorite thing, minus the crystalline effect, but it is what it is. So at this point, we have these three things over here existing, and they have been temporarily added to this prefab. So let's see what we've got going on here. So I'm going to break these prefabs, unpack them completely, pull them out so that I don't have 2 layers of stuff in here, because those were just holder things. So, and I'm going to call that, so what is this one? This one's Abyss, Spire Rises, Zenith Onslaught. Now I'm going to add these to the central prefab. I can't reorganize these yet without going in. The Unity prefab system's slightly convoluted, especially since they added the ability to nest prefabs, which you can see I've done. I love the way that they did it. I think the convolution that they have is just what is required. I think that's just how it needs to be. So no complaints here from me. So, okay, these 3 things now exist in the other ship's parent. Now, when you're editing a prefab inside the prefab editor view, it's actually really, really slow and laggy to update the main view. I'm going out of that. Okay, so before I start getting into where we're going to place these things, let's let's get some real materials on them. Now, because of the way Photoshop does its extrusions, it actually does 3 different materials, one for the front, one for the back, one for the sides. And that can be handy, but what that's meant is that there are 3 different submeshes in each of these. That means that there's going to be at least 3 different shader passes. I don't care about any of that. I just wanted to draw once. So we've got this inefficiency here, and I could have baked the submeshes together if I really cared, but I don't, because why is this not static? Because this stuff should all be static. Looks like lot of this stuff is actually not right now. You can get some subject only, static, yes, change children. We can get some major performance boosts out of making all this geometry static. So by static, what that means is Unity knows that it's not going to move. And we don't really use that in AI War very much for obvious reasons. Instead, we use what is called instance drawing instead, where our objects usually don't even really exist in the Unity hierarchy. With static batching, one of the cool things is we can make it so that these meshes, it knows, will I'm going to apply, maybe not, I'm going to apply these overrides here. It knows that it can batch them together if they share the exact same material. So normally it would have to be the same material and the same mesh in order for it to do like dynamic batching or instance drawing, which is what we normally do. But in this particular case, because it knows it's not going to move, it'll take a little bit of extra time, and it actually calculates a combined giant mesh that's all the one thing, and we'll draw that. And there can be problems with that if you are in a game where you've got a view frustum that's moving around and like certain things go out of view and need to be not drawn, and you don't want those statically batched with the things that are drawn, but you pair that with a good occlusion system and you're good to go. This is like the simplest possible case that we could really have, visually speaking, because we have a scene that is a fixed camera location. There's some stuff moving around, the ships that go through and all that sort of thing, but the hangar itself doesn't move, which is typical of most architecture in most games, and the camera doesn't move, so we know that we don't need to do any occlusion, dynamic or otherwise, with this. Just show what's here. If it's there is some stuff that's outside of the view frustum, like behind the camera here, that doesn't get drawn, and we just that stuff will get clipped out automatically, but we don't need to worry about that. So my point being, we've got 3 submeshes on each of these logos, and that's a little bit problematic. But by using static batching and just applying the same material to each submesh, it will draw as if it's one, which is cool. So let's go ahead. I'm not even going to... Yeah, I'm not going to bother these. I'll just copy these. Okay, so we'll call this Spiral Rises, Zenithon slot. And we're going to hit Control D for duplicate. And this will be our 9 syllabus. So what I'm going to do then is 9 syllabus, 9 syllabus, 9 syllabus. This one, Spiral Rises, Spiral Rises, Spiral Rises. This one, Zenithon slot, Zenithon slot, Zenithon slot. And then go ahead and apply. So now we have 3 different materials, 1 for each of these things. Let's think about positioning for these things. Where the heck are we going to be able to see them? So, Now this is a small version of the screen, naturally. So let's see what it looks like being roughly in here. Now we're not worrying about the colors and stuff just yet. So Zenithon slot, we'll put it maybe right justify-ish. And just to make sure we've got the physicality going there, I'm making sure that it clips through the wall at least a little bit. Spiralize is that clipping through? It is. Yeah, okay. Good. Fun slot, Nines Abyss, bring this over. More down. Now, if this is actually a problem and we're getting clipping through, then there's a solution for that too. In fact, I think I did kind of a random amount of extrusion on these because really it's irrelevant because I can just make more extrusion in general. And so I can make sure that it's clipping through the wall properly, like something mounted to the wall would, you know, that it's thick enough to do that. If it still has a certain amount sticking out. What we don't want is it hovering in front and causing weird shadows or something. So, the size of these logos right now is somewhat arbitrary. So we'll go ahead and wish I had my 3D mouse hooked up at the moment, but I mean, it is plugged in, but it's not. There's a special driver that you have to include with Unity in order for that to work. Well, that looks terrible. Okay, so extrude that out a little bit and then move it forward so it's still clipping, but not so much. Cool. All right, I'll move this over a bit. All right. That's a busy wall. But it is right where we can see, which is nice. And I like the line of this. This makes sense. Don't really want to go in that space back there. It's going to be so darn hard to see. All right, so let's move these down a little bit. This one down in particular. Okay. See what this looks like when it's bigger. So at a more reasonable resolution, that actually looks pretty good. Shoot, can't get my window back at the moment without moving the whole screen. Okay, so looks better than it could have with that. So now let's start dealing with materials here. So I'm going to edit all three of these at once to start out with. And let's throw a normal map of, there's an Arkin logo normal map, which is fine. They need some sort of normal map in order to not look terrible. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with white for these and kind of metallic. So we want there to be a lot of reflection going on, them to not be perfectly smooth. Too much smoothness and metallicness, and they just will disappear. So, we can make them brighter. All right. Now, anything else I would do with the general maps would just be giving them like texture and so on, which I really don't want to do. That's not really the purpose here. Having these things a little bit set out color-wise from, I've got some blue tones going on in the scene in general. Having these things set out a bit from the main AI War logo makes sense. Now I want to say there's a spotlight over here or something. Where's this light coming from? Is it this? Where's that light? The light is over there. This light is looking that direction. Okay. Let's see, is this light? No, that light is what's giving us that. So there must be another light here. There's the sunlight. Yeah. Spot. Nope. There's the main light. Oh, that's one of the things that's wrong with this. Is these are the wrong layer. So that's worth noting. I have different layers which have different culling masks for different lights, so not all of them apply. So these need to be in the scenes layer. There we go. Now they're behaving more like I expected. I was wondering what the heck's going on with these things. Okay, so let's go back to editing these again. Now they're actually being affected by the local lights. Just wondering what's going on with that. Okay, so we'll go like this. More metallic, please. If we go too smooth, things get crazy. What did I do for the AOR2 logo at the moment? So this is at 1 and 0.85. Let's try and see what those look like on here. So 1, 0.85. Okay, so this is matching now the exact AOR2 logo itself. Needs some adjustments. All right, we'll save that real quick, and this should be disabled. Let's hit play. This is on a very small view at this point, but this is my little preview view. It's having to compile at the moment. It's being very slow. Come on, you can do it. Console. Well, that is slow. You actually see as this loads in what it's doing in the hierarchy over here. It's adding a bunch of stuff in the main game central, and then it enables and disables different things. So, alrighty, now we've got the live scene going here. Let's make this a bit bigger. I'm going to make it, whoa, not going to do that. Doesn't look bad. I like how the logos are getting caught by the lights from the ships that go past. They already hit the wall in general, but it's more obvious with them hitting the various expansion logos there. This feels good. This feels like a good on state. It is slightly busy, but it's not the end of the world. That slow updating that was happening there is because of the my computer is running really laggy at the moment, so I've got a million things open in general, but because the frame rate is below, I think 25, 30, something like that, the cube map for the background's updating more slowly, and so that makes for some weirdness with the lights going by sometimes, where it updates one side of the cube map at a time in a time-sliced fashion, so it makes it look like stop motion almost. No, pause for a minute. Okay, after considering this and pausing for a minute, let's start making some changes. We'll assume this is like we have all three expansions. We've got them all, and this is the on state. So let's make these all wound up being identical. So that's fine. I don't mind having, well, you know what, it'll batch them all together though if we just use one. Do I want to do that? There's always the chance that I'm going to want these to look slightly different. What if, while we're looking at this, Spiririzes, what if that was a little more yellow? Oh, that just starts looking busy. And like if the Nines of the Abyss was like more into the pink or something. Yeah, see, that does not look good. Now you can't tell what the heck's going on over there. Monochrome it is. Okay. So regardless, I'm going to have one, it's my disabled one, and I'm going to apply that to them. Well, that's the end of this video, though. My kids are getting home, so it's going to be loud in here in a minute.